This is a download from the BBC. To find out more, visit bbc.co.uk/Radio 4.
Welcome to The Infinite Monkey Cage, the show that mixes science and rationality, although it may meander a bit. I'm Brian Cox, and I understand the Pomeron. Coming up on The Infinite Monkey Cage this week, we'll be discussing the possibility of intelligent life beyond our solar system, the search for signals from alien civilizations, and we'll be imagining what they might make of us. And if they decide to pay us a visit, how would they get here? The truth behind UFOs, alien visitations, and some other great conspiracy theories.
Helping us separate the science fact from the science fiction, we've got two extra primates inside the monkey cage today. Seth Shostak, a senior astronomer with the SETI Institute in California, whose job is to search for intelligent life beyond our planet, and a filmmaker and author who has made his reputation covering some of the more peculiar beliefs out there, from examining David Icke's obsession with lizards ruling the world, to looking at alien abductions with Robbie Williams, to the US Army's attempts at psychic warfare in his book, now film, The Men Who Stare at Goats, John Ronson.
Hello. On more scientific matters, Seth Shostak, you work for the SETI Institute, which stands for the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. Could you briefly describe what that is and how we go about searching for signs of alien civilizations?
Well, sure. In fact, this is what's called the scientific search for extraterrestrial intelligence, because there are plenty of people who are looking for the aliens, as you've already alluded to, right here on planet Earth. We're not doing that. We're trying to find them at home by eavesdropping on signals, just what Jodie Foster did in the movie Contact. And so we wield these, big antennas, radio telescopes. We point them at nearby stars. We try and pick up on signals that might be headed our way from somebody else, simply on the basis of the fact that even we, only 100 years after really inventing radio or perfecting radio, we can already make transmitters that could reach the stars with their signals, very strong signals, at the distances of the stars. This was realized half a century ago. So some people said, look, if there are other societies out there that are at least as clever as the residents of Clapham Junction or something, they may be broadcasting signals that are washing over us all the time. Why not look for them? And that's the fundamental premise of this experiment.
Seth, what makes us think there is intelligent life out there?
Well, I think it just boils down to the numbers, Robin, really nothing more than that. I mean, on the basis of data that astronomers have accumulated in, say, the past dozen years, now you can say that the number of planets in our Milky Way galaxy is on the order of a trillion. That's a million. Right? So if only 1 in a million of those guys is somewhat like the Earth, with liquid oceans and, thick atmospheres and all the salubrious ingredients that might lead to something as clever as you are, then that still leaves a million planets in our galaxy. And if you don't like your fellow Galaxians, hey, there are 100 billion other galaxies we can see with our telescopes, and they each have a similar number of planets. So just on the basis of the numbers alone, no matter what else you think, it seems rather likely we're not the only game in town.
Well, there is that thing about repressed memory where they've done a lot of looking into the idea that people suddenly at the age of 30 go, I've just remembered when I was 8, this happened to me, and from what I can gather from psychiatrists, they go, it is actually very, very unlikely that if you have a major event where you do actually go to another star system where you're repeatedly probed, you'll still have an inkling of that. It doesn't just suddenly go, oh! Do you know one of the things I forgot recently? Milk and my abduction. Seth, what's your opinion on that?
Well, I tell you, I hear from people every day, of course, who are having difficulties with aliens in their personal lives. And so, that I'm not qualified to investigate this, but a lot of people have. And the matter of abduction, in fact, is generally attributed to something called sleep paralysis. And this is just, everybody experiences this, or at least a lot of people do, where you sort of wake up and your body is kind of frozen. You can't move at first when you wake up. Your body does this so you don't fall out of the top bunk of a bunk bed, for example. But sometimes you wake up and it hasn't shut that mechanism off. And at that point, very frequently, people will imagine somebody standing next to the bed and so forth and so on. So some studies have shown that this is responsible for the alien abduction scenario.
There is an interesting question lurking in here, though, isn't there? Because our galaxy's been around for, let's say 8 billion years, 9 billion years, and the Milky Way galaxy 10 billion years. There are a lot of star systems there. There should be extremely advanced civilizations. So the question of why they haven't developed interstellar travel and come to visit us is actually a good one, is it? It needs addressing, doesn't it?
Well, it is a legitimate point. I mean, whatever else you want to say about the UFO phenomenon, the fact that so many people think that we are being visited, I mean, it doesn't violate physics. You're quite right, Brian. I mean, there's been plenty of time, and even with slow rockets of the type that we can manufacture, it would be possible, it'd be very tedious, but it would be possible to go from one star system to another. So it doesn't violate physics, and if it doesn't violate physics, then you have to at least say, well, okay, You claim that the aliens have landed in the backyard. Let's at least look at the evidence. Yeah, that's a legitimate thing to say.
So why is it that they're not here? Or are they here?
Well, I don't think they're here, and I think that the problem is not the credibility of the witnesses. I mean, these are pilots. Edgar Mitchell is an Apollo astronaut, and he will whisper in your ear, how we're covering up the fact that the aliens are here. Honestly, I think if they were here, and I agree with John on this, the evidence would not be ambiguous, right? The Spaniards in 1492 did not sail to North America and then just sort of tease the Indians by sailing back and forth 3 miles off the coast for 62 years while the Indians debated on late-night radio, do you think we're being visited by Europeans or not? I mean, the evidence was completely unambiguous. Half the Indians were dead within 30 years because of diseases. They were enslaved by the Europeans and so forth and so on. Well, I think that the evidence would be down on Exhibition Road if in fact we were being visited.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the real mystery and the magic of all of this is the magic of the human brain. I mean, there's a wonderful story about an RAF pilot in the 90s who flew over a field and then a few seconds later turned around and flew back again. And in those few seconds, an enormous crop circle had formed. It was the most intricate crop circle ever. It was called the Julia set, and conferences, and it really kind of re-galvanised the entire crop circle gang, who'd been sort of dying off, and everyone was like so excited, that this crop circle had just formed, for no reason, and T-shirts were printed and conferences were organised, and of course the real mystery is why had the pilot failed to spot it on his way over the field the first time, because it had definitely been made the night before by a bunch of conceptual artists with a plank and some string.